Hello, and welcome to Royalty Exchange. Every month, hundreds of investors join Royalty Exchange looking for an opportunity to invest in music royalties. But royalties are a relatively new asset class, so we created this video as a quick introduction to not only how music royalties work, but the ways you can invest in music royalties using our marketplace. This video will answer some of the most common questions we receive, such as who is Royalty Exchange? What are royalties? How do royalties work? How do you value royalties, and how can I invest in music royalties? Now, before we get started, I need to note that this is an informational video only. We are not investment advisors, nor are we giving financial, tax, or legal advice. So with that, who are we? Simply put, Royalty Exchange is an online marketplace for buying and selling royalties. We use the power of markets to unlock the value of ideas for everyone involved. And we do that through a transparent marketplace where everybody operates on the same playing field. We're not the buyer or the seller. We're simply the marketplace where transactions take place. This is a relatively new concept in the music space, where most royalty transactions are limited to just a handful of players and deal terms that are kept under wraps. We think that actually restricts value, while a transparent marketplace will instead serve to increase value for both buyers and sellers. In the last 5 years, we facilitated over $74 million in transactions through 875 completed deals. We have over 27,000 investors registered for the marketplace, and those who have acquired royalties through the marketplace have enjoyed an average return on investment of 12.15% based on our last analysis. Now, we primarily work with music royalties, but we do also have royalty opportunities in the movie and trademark space as well. Content aside, the asset that you're acquiring on Royalty Exchange is the right to receive revenue generated by royalties. You're not acquiring copyrights or control of the content generally. It's a passive, often partial interest in a royalty stream. Once acquired, you don't need to work the catalog or take any effort for the asset to continue earning royalties. That's because there are others in the music industry charged with ensuring that these royalties keep flowing. You're simply investing alongside them. So what are royalties, and how do they make money? A royalty is a payment made to the owner of an asset for the right to use that asset. In the music business, songs are licensed for various types of use, and those uses generate royalties. A royalty interest is the right to collect on a stream of royalty payments. In the music business, multiple people that contribute to the creation of a song have a royalty interest in that song and collect those royalties as compensation for their efforts. Anytime that song is used, all who own royalties attached to it will collect payment. From an investment perspective, royalties are a cut off the top of revenue generated by music. They are paid out at set, specified intervals. Payment is based on use, not company performance. That means the royalty holder earns revenue before stockholders in a company. Royalties are not awarded based on the whim of a corporate board like a dividend might. Think of it like earning a penny for every iPhone sold versus a share of Apple stock. Now, the music business generates multiple types of royalties, and each royalty stream is dependent on the kind of copyright that they are associated with. Every song has two copyrights, one for the song as it is written and one for the song as it was recorded. And we'll go over that here. Let's take, for instance, the song Knocking on Heaven's Door by Bob Dylan. The musical composition copyright covers the song as it was written and is held by the songwriter. This is the person who wrote the melody, the notes, and the lyrics, etc. In this case, that's Bob Dylan. Once the song is recorded, another copyright is generated called the sound recording. The person or band who records the song owns the recording copyright. In some cases, the songwriter and the performer are the same person, as in this case, but often there are multiple songwriters that may assist in writing the songs, and all of them have a royalty interest in the use of the composition copyright. And, as in this case, other artists may also record the song. They will own and collect royalties on the sound recording copyright for the version that they recorded, but only the songwriter, again in this case Bob Dylan, will collect the composition royalties for each of those versions. So what types of uses pays royalties for these two copyrights? Both copyrights generate royalties based on how the songs and recordings have been used. In the sound recording, that rights that are generated include synchronization rights, reproduction rights, and performance rights. Synchronization is when the music has been licensed to be used in a television show or a film. Reproduction rights is basically when that music has been sold, like as an album or even streamed on Spotify. That's considered a sale. And performance rights is when it's been played like on digital radio stations or satellite radio stations. On the composition side, basically there's similar rights. Synchronization rights when the music's licensed for film or TV. For reproduction, we call them mechanical rights in the composition space. That's when the composition has been reproduced in some fashion that's been sold, like an album, or again, streamed, like on Spotify. And finally, there's performance rights, which is a little more expansive than on the sound recording side. This includes when the music is played on the radio, as well as in bars and clubs and things like that. Now, there's a lot more to this, including the entities that songwriters and recording artists work with to track and collect their royalties. Generally, songwriters sign with publishers or use a publishing administration service for their royalties, and recording artists sign with labels or use distribution services for theirs. You can visit the royalties guide section of our site to dig down further if you like, but this is the basic overview of the different types of royalties that music generates, which you as an investor can buy a share of on our marketplace. Now, one of the most common questions we have from investors is how they should determine the value of royalty streams. After all, these are not like typical stocks or bonds, but they are an investment, and properly putting a value on an asset is a critical part of making smart investments. So there are two terms you need to get familiar with to help you determine the value of royalties in our marketplace. The first is LTM multiple. This refers to the price you're willing to pay for the royalty. The sales price is measured as a multiple of the asset's last 12 months of earnings. So if an asset earned $10,000 last year and you paid $50,000 for it, you would have paid a 5 times multiple on its last 12 months earnings. When you determine how much you want to spend on an asset or how much you want to invest in music royalties, we feel it's helpful to determine at what multiple you're comfortable spending rather than just a dollar amount. Higher quality assets often justify paying higher multiples. So how do you determine higher quality assets? Well, that's where we created the dollar age metric. This is a proprietary metric that we developed to help investors evaluate catalogs. We're not in the music business, and we can't tell just by listening to music whether it's got a good chance of earning royalties into the future. So we do what many investors do when we examine previous year's earnings. Dollar age is the length of time that royalties generated in the last year have been earning royalties overall. The longer a song has earned royalties, the greater likelihood that it will continue to earn royalties into the future. For instance, suppose you were evaluating two songs and both earned $5,000 in the last 12 months. One of those songs has been earning royalties for 10 years, while the other for only 2 years. The first would have a dollar age of 10, and the second a dollar age of 2. The one that had been earning royalties for 10 years and a dollar age of 10 could be considered a safer bet than the one that's only been earning royalties for 2, and therefore could be justified in paying a higher multiple to acquire. Now, those are just the two metrics we start with. They're a good guide, but they don't tell the full story. You may also want to consider the sources of royalty income and their stability, particularly with formats like streaming. Also, the fluctuation of royalties over time is important to examine, and I'll show you where to find this information in a moment. The point is not to let biases like familiarity or social proof cloud your decisions. A catalog of music by an artist that you've never heard of, which has a high dollar age, may be a better bet than a collection of brand new music by an artist that you're more familiar with. So how do you get started evaluating and buying music catalogs? After all, music royalties are not as widespread or as common as stocks and bonds. As mentioned earlier, access to royalty transactions were limited to just a small group of industry insiders. We created the Royalty Exchange Marketplace to provide access to royalty deals to investors like you. Not just access to the deals themselves, but access to the information that you might need to make a confident investing decision. The Royalty Exchange Marketplace consists of two main areas, the auction house and the secondary market. Let's start with the auction house. This is where we list assets with the starting price set by the seller. Once a listing gets a bid, the auction begins and typically lasts for about 3 business days. Any registered investor can see the same details for each listing, but you need to be a verified investor to place a bid. Verification is a one-time process that you can complete at any time. Once you're verified, you can bid away on a current auction or any auction in the future. And once the auction ends, the highest bidder wins the auction. Here's an example of a listing and the details we provide. You'll see the current price, the time left on the auction, and the number of total bids. To the right, you'll see the standard information presented in each listing. This includes the starting price, the dollar age, the investment term, such as life of rights deal or a 10-year term deal, as well as the distributor information, which is the entity that distributes and pays the royalties for that royalty type. And finally, of course, it lists the actual rights included. There's also a financials tab. Here you can dig more into the details, such as a year-over-year earnings history for the entire catalog, as well as breakdown of that history based on song or source. And source is where you can kind of see where it's earning royalties from which types of royalty streams, such as performance royalties, mechanical royalties, sync royalties, and so on. Now, the secondary market is where we list any asset acquired on the Royalty Exchange Marketplace at any time. These are mostly assets acquired in previous auctions. This is where you can make an offer directly to the asset owner, usually another investor just like you. They can accept or reject or even ignore these offers as they like. Asset owners can also set an asking price for the catalogs that they own that they wish to actively try to sell on the secondary market. This means if you accept their list offer, we immediately initiate the sale. There's typically well over 100 listings at any time to review in the secondary market on a given week, compared to, say, 3 to 5 weekly in the auction house. Again, in the secondary market, each listing contains detailed information about the sources of earnings and earnings history. But the secondary market also includes information like the number and size of bids that have been made since listed and the earnings the asset has received since initial purchase on our site. You'll notice the analyst recommendation price. This is an algorithmically derived benchmark that we include to provide guidance on what we think might be a fair price based on the catalog's performance. Now, this benchmark is only available to our All Access investor members, so I'll talk about that just for a second. All Access is our premium investor membership tier. It's a yearly subscription service for which members can receive monthly insights about the state of the marketplace and the broader music industry, the ability to access the analyst benchmark feature that I just went over, or even ask our financial analysts questions about specific catalogs they may be interested in. It includes significant discounts on our marketplace fees, generally 1% of the closing price, which is used to cover the administrative costs of administrating the royalties over time. All Access members do not pay that. And it also includes access to our standing orders automated investing feature. This allows you to set the terms of the types of royalties that you're interested in receiving based on dollar age and earnings history and things like that. And then you can set the amount that you're willing to spend. And as catalogs that match your requirements come into the system, we'll automatically match them to your standing offer before they even hit the auction house. More details on the All Access membership is available on our website. That's the overview. Please visit the blog on our website for access to additional guides, articles, and videos that drill down further into these topics and more. And of course, please feel free to email any questions at any time to investors@royaltyexchange.com. We'll be happy to answer them. Thank you for watching, and again, welcome to the Royalty Exchange Marketplace.